The final thing, Bart, did want to ask you about why I've got you. I think it's a massive game at the weekend, Brentford. And we'll go into stats with this very, very shortly. But just in terms of, we had a great victory on Wednesday night against Frankfurt away. Brilliant. Not, I'm sure, a disgracefully organised team, especially at set pieces, maybe ones we wanted to pick. When you think of Brentford on the surface, the two things I think it's fair to say that jump to your screen are well organised set pieces. That's probably fair to say with Brentford, isn't it?
100%. It's whereas I think Frankfurt, if you were looking for a team to go away and try and get a bit of confidence, get yourself back on track, right? Without being too disrespectful, a team that shipped that amount of goals as Frankfurt had dropped their keeper because he conceded some about 11 goals in the last 3 games, whatever it was. And have a midfield that, a colleague of mine said is an extremely soft centre, a bit like an armadillo, hard on the outside, soft on the inside.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a bad opposition to go and play, right? And we did the job that we do. Liverpool is still a very, very good side. If you let them do the things that Liverpool want to do, they will kill you. That's fundamentally how they're set up. The problem with this season is the teams are not letting us do that, and we're still working a few things up. Conversely, Brentford could, and history tells us that, make the game very difficult, make it into a set-piece scenario, lower bent, right? Yeah. Try and physically dominate you in terms of duels, which is the method that Everton have used quite successfully against us. Newcastle have done that against us.
Yeah.
The positives for us is that I think Brentford are not as good as they were. This is famous last words, isn't it? You're going to clip me for this later on. But they're not as good as they were last season, I think. I think they're going through a bit of a change. But fundamentally, their principles are still there. They'll still try and do lower bent games, set plays, maximise, and then make it about jobs.
Does feel that way. And there's so many former Liverpool connections with obviously Jordan Henderson's there. Kelleher will be between the sticks. Probably Fabio Carvalho will be on the bench. But if you just look at them in terms of the raw stats, it's interesting because 8 games, lost half of them, won 3, draw 1. So they are a real mix across the board. And if you look at their last 5, 1-2, lost 2, draw, everything, anything these boys could serve up. But it's almost impressive they've scored 11 goals and they have got threats like Utara, players like that. Igor seems to be knocking in a few as well, although I think I could score a few against West Ham at the moment. But it's that one, as you say, in terms of things just to point to. 12 goals conceded. That's quite interesting for me. But I'm kind of intrigued to see what are the underlying stats and what have we got for Brentford.
We won't go massively into depth because it's not, whatever it is, but so Brentford on the whole, what did you say? They scored 11 goals, haven't they?
Yeah.
Right? Is that right? Yeah. And they've created 10.7 XG. So they're bang on in terms of creation. Okay. We can look at another site and I will look at where they come from in a minute. But against, which is the key thing, I think they conceded 12, right? So they've actually should have conceded 10. So they're running cold at the defensive end. So they conceded more than they should do. Recently they have started to tighten up, which is probably something you don't want to be seeing. They've gone from having over 1 XG conceded to now 0.8, 0.4. So one of those was against City. So it's that's something you don't want to be seeing. I think if we look at where they create from, which is probably something. So on the start, I'll obviously tell you the situation. So open play, they've only created 8.7 XG, which is funnily enough where they've scored 10 of their goals, which is again a difference from last season. They scored a lot of goals from set plays last season. They got 1 penalty, which was against United, I think it was.
Yeah.
So from set plays, and this is where I said they're changing. They should have scored, what's that? Corners and other set pieces, you're looking at just short of 3 goals, right? And they've scored none, right? Goals against from set plays, they're still very tight though. This is 0.9, so it's less than a goal from set plays, and they've conceded one. So they're pretty much bang on where they should be. So that's not a huge weakness they're giving up. They're not Frankfurt, for example, at giving away XG at set plays.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not scoring at the rate they should be from set plays, which could be a bit of a warning, considering we are susceptible is not the right word. So we deal with the first ball really well at the moment, but over, I think 4 out of the 5 goals we conceded from set plays in the league this year have come from second phase, i.e. BVD wins the first one, but the opposition know that, and then they pick up the recycled ball and get it. Palace scored twice. Newcastle. Yeah, there's various opportunities you look at, and it's because of that second ball thing. So if we don't solve that, then Brentford are creating enough XG that if there's a weakness in your ability to defend them, that might fall their way. Otherwise, in terms of game state, what happens? They generally, from a goal difference down below, so when they're behind, they can start conceding a lot of XG. Okay, which happens with a lot of teams. It does. We sometimes take advantage. We take our ability to come back from goals behind. We talk about as being. He's actually quite a big superpower. Not a lot of teams can do that. All right. So that's something to be considering. Brentford as a whole, just looking at where we are. So that's 1.8, 1.25 a game against just below 1 XG. So XG difference of 0.31, which is not great. You know, if you're going to win the league, which Brentford aren't.
Aren't you looking at Bournemouth there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Bournemouth. My bad. Yeah. Sorry. 1.37, 1.0, about level even of XG. Got my B's mixed up there, right, man. Just been ill. So they've got an XG difference of pretty much 0, right? Which explains where they are in their intermittent form. If you're going to be a good side, you need to be 0.8 or above, all right? So, so their threat is about just over 1, so they're not converting at any rate at all. And they're conceding 0.33 threat. Generally, we do about 2 and a bit weeks rate. So it'd be interesting to see how much of our game we can impose on Brentford, or will it end up being a series of lower events, low XG events, and you hope you come the right side of it with a bit of magic, with maybe a Nunes chip one year. I think you did, was it, from a Jota header, or some near post little flicks and the rest of it. So yeah, it could be a really tight game, and I hope we come out on the right side. They've gone away from the beginning of the season where they were giving away a lot of XG to now get a bit tighter. So I think it might be a game of patience. We're probably going to have a lot of possession, as we normally do, and it's about how that block that we sometimes have when we get into the final third of creating that moment. Yeah, this will really test our ability to deal with deep blocks, definitely, and our ability to defend set plays.
It's interesting because I mean, considering they've lost half their games, that sounds positive. I think you used the right phrase. They've tightened up. They played both Manchester clubs in the last 3. So they played United in game week 6 and won 3-1. They only shipped 1 there. Game week 7, they lost to City, but it was only 1-0 at home, and they were in that right till the end. And, you know, in the nicest way, Haaland scores against everyone at the moment, doesn't he? So, you know, but only shipping 1 to City and clean sheet. So they've actually only conceded 2 goals in their last 3. So you can see them under Keith Andrews clearly tightening up. So unfortunately, it's going the wrong way, because 2 games before they had 2 at home against Chelsea conceded, and then lost at Fulham by 3, but it is tightening up. We've really got to stress that, unfortunately, going the wrong way. The other thing I wanted to say is some clubs have tried to use this against us, and you mentioned Van Dijk getting the first header, or sometimes it's Canate on occasions, it's that second ball. Brentford, long throws. Michael Coyote especially, they do load people into the box, and they bring up a Pinnock, they bring up a Nathan Collins. They have aerial threats there as well, don't they? This could be even Stefan de Berg. There's another
Liverpool.
Yeah. when they equalised against Chelsea for 2-2. It's Van der Berg with the flick on, wasn't it? And Carvalho at the far post. So even those long throws and the tightening up, the two traits we're not really too excited about for this one, are we?
No, I anyway lines up with. Their back four. Their forwards. Their forwards. Their fullbacks used to be their attacking output. They've trimmed that a little bit now. And then you've got double pivot in front of Yamovich and Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Henderson is definitely past peak. I'm not going to dig on an ex-Liverpool captain, but he's not prime Henderson, right? He's not going to do a lot of running around, for example. He's going to work hard to do the rest of it. But that's going to be a very strong box in front of their goal. We've already seen United played a back three with almost two in front, right? And that meant that we had very low amount of shots in the width of the goal. A lot of our shots were from angles until we started getting the set plays right in the second half and creating pressure. So you could get a similar if the two fullbacks tuck in potentially, and you get a really tight forward two in front. Yeah, that's going to be difficult to break down. But the selection that Slot comes up with will be really interesting. He's got to match them for height because that's what Brentford are about fundamentally, and you've got to find ways of creating gaps in between their defence. So it's about stretch, it's about pace. So Cody's probably, he always start anyway, but he holds the width on the left. You then need to think about your right, you do that, how you occupy in the middle as well. So, yeah, that selection will be really interesting. I can imagine he'll probably go for the midfield three that he did last week, maybe. Grab's injured, isn't he? So, but a CJ Grab, CJ Mack, Dom might be, I don't know, might go with that in the middle.
It's hard to say because you mentioned height there, so you're probably thinking, well, we think Gravenberg's going to be fit. Obviously, we'll have to see about the press conference, which is 10:30 in the morning for that one. So Gravenberg brings height. Obviously, we talk about how good he is in the air, but that's a different discussion. I think Dominic Szoboszlai was great against Frankfurt. Curtis Jones and Alexis McAllister so out of form at the moment. It's hard to see that. Robbo and Kirkes, neither are brilliant in the air particularly, but maybe Robbo just shades it with his performance. I don't know. It's so hard to call with some of these. I think Conor Bradley, obviously Frimpong's now injured, but his height would have got him the nod over Frimpong for this, I think, as well. Which then brings into the forward line, because you're thinking with Isak out, of course, Ekitike is going to start, has some height at the same time. Florian Wirtz question, because a lot of people are thinking, I kind of get this, he's got to get a run in the team, but if Salah's going to come in on the right, that only leaves the left-hand side, and Cody Gakpo is his boy, and whatever you think of Cody Gakpo, height, the experience, are you seeing Wirtz maybe dropping out for this one?
This is where at the moment, it's really hard to predict what he would do. Like, who thought he'd go away to Frankfurt and play effectively a box? And at our position 4-4-2 and in possession of a box, right, with two forwards. I struggle to see him playing Wirtz in an area, like position him in between Henderson and that. I don't think he would do that. But I did think Wirtz was good last night. I did think he played well. But Mo didn't play. And Wirtz was flowing into those areas, and a couple of the really good moments where Flo was into the right half space channel, into the hot zone and playing it across. So, but he's not going to not play Mo for 2 games in a row. So, yeah, I think I haven't got, and that's not helpful. I don't have I'm not sure what he's going to do with either of those two. I don't think he's going to play both Mo and Wirtz. That's probably where I'm at with that. I don't think he'll play both. Because he's going to need it to Ekitike and he's going to need Cody's height. And I think he'll need power in midfield. So if Grab's fit, then it grabs CJ Dom makes sense. But yeah, then that doesn't leave anywhere for Wirtz.
Could we? It's so hard to predict. I don't think anyone's got any certainty on the lineup. And I suppose the final thing for this one, everything we're watching and seeing everything we've just analysed stats one, this doesn't scream. I mean, you never know because things surprise you, but this does not scream 3-3 like it was when Brentford first came up into the league. This feels like a very tight game that could be, again, Liverpool conceding or not conceding set pieces. Very marginal, it feels, doesn't it?
Yeah, I as you quite rightly said, I mean, City are not a bad side, by the way. We talk about City as being like, oh yeah, whatever, but they're still a very good team. They have a cheat code, and they needed that cheat code to win this game.
Yeah.
And so they 1-0. So that shows you how strong they are. They beat United. Yes, United at that time, I think, weren't as good as they are now.
We couldn't. Yeah.
But United have improved over the weeks, whether people like to say that or not. But so I think the tight game is on the cards. And I'm hoping we're on the right side of that tightness. I really am. I think personally, he needs a win. He needs a win in the Premier League to get back on track. And
stay at least stay in the top four, or because Arsenal play Sunday. If the real aspirations are push it right up there, so we will have to see. Bit early in the day, I know, but what are you predicting? What's your gut telling you for Saturday evening?
I mean, I've got to go. I think I'm probably going to go with a 1-0 Liverpool win. And
wow,
I don't know if there's any. I'm trying to take positives from midweek and say that the boys have had a chat. They've got some stuff going. There seems to be maybe these are all superlatives and not actually tangibles, if you like. But no, I hope we go there, do a professional job, defend well from set plays and nick it, and then go home and take the 3 points.
Fingers crossed with that. And I don't know, maybe it is heart over head with Wednesday night, but I get 2-1 in my head. I get sloppy set piece conceded, but Ekitike on the score sheet. But you're right. Any type of win, we have just got to get it done. We would take it all day long. So there we go, people. There's a lot to like for Semenyo. January, I'm not so sure, especially if this apparent clause is in the summer. The premium's there. It's hard to say. In terms of other moves for wingers, again, we've got to be honest, as we're hearing it, Anfield Index, Yankuba Minteh is the one that is also being called out. I know you want Elise, and obviously there's talk around release clause, but that is the one we're hearing at the moment. And in terms of Brentford at the weekend, they score, they concede, they get set pieces, although they're not as hot as many would think. So maybe that could just work in our favour. But this coming weekend, Liverpool, if we've got any serious aspirations, have got to win. Simple as that. All it leaves me to say as ever is, for the time, the insight, for players, for form, for understat, for markstat, for everything that exists, Bart, as ever, is massively appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was a Stat Me Up special at Anfield Index.